Oh, I can't pick you up. All right, guys, you have like 8 minutes to finish your quiz. I am gonna go get some things. Nikas, come on. Come on. No, get off.
Sorry, all right, I'm so sorry.
Hey, good morning, Professor.
Morning, Julian. How are you?
How you doing today?
It was a rough morning, that's for sure.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I like your Black Panther background, though.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about Black Panther today.
Professor, is that log due? That the log is due next week, right? Not this week?
Right. I think so.
Okay.
Let me check. Because I just graded one log, but I still have another one to do for you guys. Let me- Right, today is Thursday. We'll read the articles for Monday. It says the research log is due Wednesday, but I'm going to change that to Saturday. Okay, so the research log is due a week from this Saturday.
Professor,
Yeah.
if we get in like mid-Sunday, would that be fine or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
soft deadline. Yeah. So you got like 2 minutes left. Morning. Okay, so if you're still working, you probably got kicked out of the waiting or the quiz. Welcome, happy Thursday. It was kind of a rough morning for me, so forgive me if I'm a little scattered. So today we're talking about Black Panther. We're reading stuff about Black Panther for Monday. That's when we next meet. Thursday, a week from today, is a break day. So there'll be no classes on that day, which is, thank God, I really need a break day. Okay. Your research log is due that Saturday. Okay. Questions? Okay. All right. Black Panther from 2018. I assume you guys have seen this, especially because it was on Netflix. Yes?
I saw it in theaters in Japan. It was awesome.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So it seems like a movie to watch in theaters. All right. Tell me about these characters. So here are all the characters. It might be useful to kind of take a screenshot of this for you. The one character, of course, that's missing is Chadwick Boseman, but I figure you know him. All right, so here are all the characters. There's a lot of characters in this one. But yeah. The other thing I kind of wanted to point out is like it's kind of an international cast of characters. Obviously, Michael B. Jordan is from, America. Do you guys know where others are from?
Stan Lee's from America.
He is. So is Angela Bassett. She's kind of a, she's like the Meryl Streep of the African American actresses community. She's in everything.
Trevor Noah's from Europe, somewhere in Europe.
South Africa.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. He grew up in apartheid. Yes. But this guy is from England, Daniel Kaluuya. America, South America, the Caribbean islands. America, but first generation because her parents immigrated from Africa. Africa, America, England, America, I think. But it's much more international cast than what we've seen. And part of this has to do with the African diaspora. Anyone know what the African diaspora is? Want to take a guess? The African diaspora is like basically like people of African descent who live outside of Africa, usually because of a history of slavery. So like, as we know, like slavery, people from Africa were brought to America to be slaves here, but they were also brought to South America, and other places. So the African diaspora is like basically someone who has African descent, but also kind of identifies as something else like African American or Afro-Caribbean or stuff like that. Okay. So I have things that are different about the film. It's a more international cast. There's a lot more color racially, but also like visually, like compare this movie to Dark Knight, it's like so much more color. Wakanda is a utopia or a perfect world where there's a blend of tradition, spirituality, and technology, and it's Pan-African. So the idea about Wakanda is like, it's not supposed to be set anywhere necessarily in Africa, but it's got like characteristics of lots of different nations in Africa. All right, quiz questions. I thought it might be fun to kind of ask you guys, hold on, some of these quiz questions or what you wrote for these quiz questions. Here, I'm just gonna make it so that we focus on one at a time. All right, here we go. So where and when does Black Panther get his powers in this movie?
Well, we don't really know. Well, he gets his powers before the movie.
Right.
He gets them taken away to do the ritual thing from
a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, but he gets them from a secret herb flower thing. That's cool.
The heart-shaped herb, yeah, as well as the suit, right? Because the suit is
helps him,
yeah, tech. So is this different or similar to other superhero movies?
I said it was kind of like similar to Dark Knight and like the first Dark Knight on
Right.
how when Bruce like goes to the mountains and he has to like train with like these ninja guys and like fight all of them, and how like in Wakanda, because all these tribes like fight over this plant. So I kind of said like it's kind of like you have to fight and like whoever's best like gets like the powers. So I said like whoever is best. In Bruce Wayne's case, like got like all this martial arts like training and this and that. So I kind of said it was kind of like that.
Well, Charles, you've convinced me. But I was thinking that usually like this is different than most, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. I was thinking like it's very different because like since he like, okay, how does he get his powers? He does the heart-shaped herb because he's the best fighter, right? But also he's born into the position, and also it's technology. He's got like all these different claims to kind of power, and it's pretty different from like Spider-Man, for instance, right?
Well, I thought it was a ceremony. I thought the fight was a ceremony to decide who becomes the Black Panther. Like that was the honor of winning that battle.
No, it's the king. You fight for the king. Like everybody has an equal.
Oh, you fight for
Royal
the
blood.
so is the king, but isn't the kingship the Black Panther?
Yeah,
Because
he
all
comes
of the kings have been the Black Panther.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes and no, right? Because he was already Black Panther at the beginning of the movie, right? He's got the suit and stuff, and he's got the powers. and then he realizes his dad is dead. So it's kind of confusing, right?
But doesn't that dude what's his name? The brother become like Black Panther as well
Killmonger?
when he beats T'Challa in the fight.
Killmonger, right? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said is different about like other films because like you see like basically like the power getting passed on from people to people.
Yeah.
So that's why I said why could be different.
Yeah, exactly. The power is getting passed on, hereditary, right? You have to be of the blood. So this I think is kind of interesting and different. Maybe most similar to Wonder Woman, where she kind of has her powers at the beginning, when she discovers her like true self or whatever. Okay. What is the image Wakanda shows to the world, and what is the truth of Wakanda, and why did Wakanda leaders make this decision?
They show like what they show is that they're like a very poor kind of like third worldish country. Doesn't have anything valuable that anyone should come looking for, but the real truth is they're super advanced technological civilization on top of one of the most valuable resources in the world.
Right.
Their reason for not wanting to show that out is because, as kind of what happens in the movie is they don't want bad people to get a hold of it, and they feel like if they put it out to the world, it may help people, but at the same time it could make weapons, it could fall into the hands of villains, which it does.
Right. You're thinking of Ulysses Claw, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of decide to kind of portray themselves as a third world country, very isolationist, so that no one else can get their hands on what is it called? It's not called uranium because that's a real thing. What is it? Vibranium. Yes. Good. Excellent. Yes. So like Wakandan leaders kind of decide to kind of be like, okay, like we're going to pretend we're poor so we can kind of keep the monopoly on this, particular resource. All right. We're going to talk about that and kind of the politics of the film. What is Eric Killmonger like? Is he the true hero of the film? Why or why not? A lot of people watching this film in theaters really kind of were rooting for Eric Killmonger.
Well, it's Michael B. Jordan, so who can't root for Michael B. Jordan? I love that dude. I thought Killmonger is one of the best Marvel characters ever. He's definitely not a hero though. If people are idolizing that man as a hero, they have to do a really reality check, give themselves a real reality check. But he was the coolest character that he's ever been written. He was like super military, all the special forces, doing unspeakable thing in unspeakable lands. Like I don't like what he like. Watching that with a bunch of Marines is really cool because like we all kind of rooted for him.
You all rooted for him, yeah. And a lot of people of color are kind of like, yeah, Killmonger's got a point. Right? Like he talks to T'Challa and he's kind of like, like, what are you doing? Like you are super rich, but like all the Black people in the world are like in poverty and like, structurally kind of oppressed. Like you could free them. Why don't you? Like, and so like Killmonger has kind of like the reason for his quest is pretty moral, right? He wants to liberate them from
I wouldn't say he wants to liberate. He definitely wants to enslave himself. He wants to rule the world. He wants to be the leader of the revolution to take over the world. Like
he says he wants to liberate others, but he also wants to kind of perform a kind of colonialism. Yeah. So yeah. It's he isn't ultimately the hero because of that kind of colonialism, because of his insistence on violence, but he does raise some really good points. What about Everett Ross? Is he needed?
Completely useless character, boring storyline. Like every time it's focused on him for any period of time, I'm kind of just like,
Get off the screen.
yeah.
Others?
I liked him. I thought he was funny.
He is the comic relief. Yeah. So yeah, right.
Yeah, more or less. I think.
I
Primarily,
thought the sister was the comic relief.
she is funny. Yeah.
I think there's some people that there wasn't like a sole comic relief person.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There, yeah.
The closest I think is Everett Ross, and maybe in his interactions with the sister. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like she's like, don't scare me like that, colonizer, and like, she so Everett Ross seems like the character, at least to me, is a bit forced. Like studio execs are like, you got to put at least one white person who's good in this film, and so they did. And yeah, he offers some stuff, but like if they took him out, I still would have watched the hell out of this film. I don't think others would have not gone because Martin Freeman, right? All right, the film ends. What does T'Challa decided to do with the old projects where Killmonger was raised in Oakland?
He like buys it up and makes it like a hub, and like they're gonna set up the hubs all over the place to take care of the communities, correct? Something like that.
It's the Wakanda Outreach Center. So actually, he has kind of internalized Killmonger's points, right? And he kind of is like, well, Killmonger was right in some ways. So he's changed Wakanda's whole isolationist policy, international policy, right? And then finally, what do you know about the group, the Black Panthers, as they were active in America? Do you think the film should have mentioned more about this group? Why or why not?
I honestly know little to nothing about the Black Panthers.
Not
All I know is
surprised.
that's the one picture in the Olympics where like 3 of them won and they do their
Yes,
thing.
yeah, the Black Power salute. Yeah. And didn't they take away their medals for that?
It
It was definitely a controversy, and I think they tried to take the medals and then they ended up giving them back or something like that. Yeah.
Weren't they like a civil action group?
Yes. Yeah. So they were a civil rights group, active in the 60s and 70s. When Martin Luther King was doing his thing, the Black Panthers were also, becoming active, and right after. The reason why we have welfare is partially because of the Black Panther group and kind of how they agitated and were like, we need a safety net, like, for women and children, like, who's, the breadwinner kind of nuclear family shouldn't be the only model, and we need a safety net to help others. So, but we're going to kind of look at some more about the Black Panther group. I was pretty surprised when I watched the film that there wasn't more about the Black Panthers in it, because same name, also race, civil rights, social justice. Like,
Yeah, but the Black Panther character, the hero, has nothing to do with the Black Panther organization. I think the Black Panther hero was before the Black Panther organization was created as well.
they emerged around the same time.
One is definitely separate. Like they're not like friends. There's a lot of good things that the Black Panthers did, but there's also a lot of awfully horrible things that they did as well. So I don't think you would want the superhero to be attributed to all the atrocities that they did too.
So are you thinking of anything in particular for the atrocities?
Yeah, like police violence and killing people. That's not what the Black Panther stands for.
Okay. So we're gonna like look at the group a little bit. There's a lot of misinformation about the Black Panthers. But they were, I think Tom is correct in that they were kind of more along following Malcolm X's kind of philosophy rather than Martin Luther King's. Do you guys know the difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King? They're different kind of.
Violence and peace.
Yeah. So Malcolm X is equality by any means necessary, and Martin Luther King is equality through peaceful protest. Yeah. And so the Black Panthers did like to arm themselves, and they did kind of do, they got guns and stuff like that. In fact, back in the 60s and 70s, like gun control was a very conservative issue. And the libs wanted relaxed gun control, mostly because they were worried that people would take the guns away from the Black community. It's kind of wild. It's like backwards world. Anyway, okay. So how is this movie similar to typical superhero films, and how is it new and different? If we're going to do a kind of genre analysis.
I mean, it's kind of the same hero storyline. Like, you show him in the beginning as powers. He needs to be humbled by someone else, and then he's saved by his person he thought he was his enemy, and then he comes back to save the day. It just seemed like the regular hero storyline.
Certain elements of the plot are similar, like so that like they need to defeat someone. Like there's a battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
Although Killmonger being so complex, I think is kind of starting to kind of push that, right? What else is similar to other superhero films?
I kind of think that it wasn't a battle between good and evil. I would say that would be my argument.
It wasn't?
No, I think this was a very good movie to show a different in ideologies. Like we talked about with Martin Luther and Malcolm X. You needed both. We needed both in American history. We absolutely needed both of those great people. And I think this one the movie definitely showed a way for one to learn from the other. And I think we need more of that in the world. Like
Probably if they had kept Claw as the villain, right, then it would have been more obviously good versus evil, right?
Yeah, like if Claw was like a third independent, like we're attacking this person, but I thought it was a good battle of ideologies.
Right. It's more like an internal
philosophy.
struggle about like how to be Black in the world nowadays, right?
I mean, I saw it more as growth. Like we're all growing. Like
And that too. Yeah. And learning.
We're all coming from different places, and we all have different ideas for the same dream. And whose idea gets to thrive? And I thought the end of the movie with T'Challa going back to the projects and like he was right in a lot of ways. I just didn't like his way to get there. Let's stop let's stop seeing how we're different and start seeing how we're the same and work towards the same battle. I thought that this was the only movie. Yeah, this was the only movie that really did that. It didn't. It showed like any walks of life to come together to fight the same thing, and then like him and Iron Man, they kind of have like that same reality check where they needed to change. And like Iron Man was really one of the only he was the first superhero to do it. Like he stopped being a weapons manufacturer, and then like T'Challa coming out here, he's like, no, we're going to stay secret. And at the very end, to really change up the whole ethos of the society, to come out and be like, no, we're going out there and we're helping everybody now.
So certain things are similar to Iron Man, maybe in the evolution and how he learns how to be a better hero. So maybe that way is traditional, how the main character evolves into a better hero, but the way that he does it is different. Like, so it's not through so much like struggle between good and evil as like kind of a moral struggle. I have that he doesn't really discover his powers. There's no radioactive spider that bites him. There's no arc reactor that he gets, there's no, I'm trying to think about others.
He knows about them too. Like even as a kid, I'm sure.
Even as a kid, he was raised kind of to be this.
Yeah.
And so like, it's not traditional superhero, but maybe it kind of signals a change in the superhero genre. Think about Wonder Woman. She always knew, she was born to it. She always knew. Who else? Thor kind of was born to it, kind of always knew he was going to kind of evolve. Yeah. He definitely has daddy issues, right?
I don't think he did until he didn't discover his daddy issues until he talked to his dad really in that dream trance world.
Right.
When he was about to die.
His
Yeah.
father died at the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about like I can see what Tom is saying. Like I don't think he has daddy issues until he realizes that like the dad left. I keep forgetting his name, but Michael B. Jordan.
No
Like
longer. Yeah.
yeah, he left him like in Oakland, and like remember when
Killed his brother and
when T'Challa was in that dream with his dad, he was yelling at him saying that you were wrong.
yeah. Yes. So like so unlike most superheroes, he had his dad for a long time, almost to adulthood, but like most superheroes, he loses his dad and that kind of impels him to become a hero, right? Loss of the father figure impels him to become a hero. And then like he also kind of decides that his father was wrong, and so like he also struggles against, you know, the father's influence.
Doesn't he have to like somewhat face the fact that like his father's death could have been his fault, like because he was a security and everything like that?
I remember that flashback. And like I think it's not, I don't think it's guilt so much as like trauma grief.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, others, but like I think it's more like that he's remembering it and grieving rather than guilt.
Yeah, because we watched it happen in the other movie in Civil
Exactly.
War.
Yeah.
And he was already the Black Panther. I think he was just looking back like, dude, I'm the Black Panther. I should have been able. It was more of the internal battle. It set up the internal battle to show you how he had to break away from his father, I think.
Yeah. Or like how hard it was to break away from his father, right? Because he did love him and he grieved him deeply. One thing that I noticed is like there's no discovery or no idea that any of us could be, you know, Black Panther, wake up in the morning and find ourselves with the power of Black Panther or Wonder Woman. So unlike, you know, so remember what Liam Burke was kind of talking about, like escapism, but also wish fulfillment, right? Like, so, you know, you imagine yourself as nerdy little Peter Parker, you know, weak and kind of bullied. And then one day you wake up with the powers of Spider-Man, you know, similar to Superman. He kind of like grew up normal. And then, you know, when he hit puberty, the kind of sun was like, give him the, you know, big powers. And so he discovers it. You know, T'Challa and Wonder Woman, Diana, they're not really everyday characters, not like Deadpool, right? Not like Peter Quill. So this is kind of new and different. They're royalty, they're born into their powers, which kind of makes me think that maybe a class argument could be good. Is class a problem in the film? What do you think?
Yes. Well, like Tom was saying before, how him and his father didn't really bother about the lives of lower class African Americans, and then Killmonger's whole ideology was like, hey, that's wrong, you should do it, but I also want to take over the world. But his main problem was that he needs to help out people, and then they eventually resolved that in the end.
So like I just kind of imagine being so kind of like I was a woman watching, you know, Wonder Woman. I imagine being a Black kid in America, kind of watching Black Panther and being like, yes, finally a superhero that looks like me. Is it actually disempowering to those of us who are marginalized by the superhero genre to have someone who's like royalty, you know, born into it? Does it interfere with our escapism? Or does it not matter to our wish fulfillment?
I think if I think Black Panther did a very good job at taking Spider-Man's with great power comes great responsibility. And then we talked about Wakanda being a utopia earlier. I don't really think there's a class problem or a race issue so much
No race
as
issue? Wait.
well, we talked about in the beginning, like Killmonger's like, we need to go save our Black brothers and sisters in all the other parts of the world. It seems like the king of Wakanda, like we talked about protecting the vibranium and stuff, but he was more just worried about Wakanda. Like he was just like, hey, I am the king of Wakanda, not the world. Like,
Right.
that is not my responsibility. And then you have Killmonger coming up. He's like, we need to make everything outside of our borders the responsibility. I think if you're I think that the utopia was everyone looked at their leaders of their villages or tribes in Wakanda, and they were like, lead us. And they understood that with that power and that responsibility, that they had to give up something of themselves for that. Like, because not everyone can be the president, not everyone can be the leader. And I think it did a good job of showing, like, do your part and the society can be better. But no one's doing their part, and we all want to be a hero or a leader. But like half of us suck at everything we do anyway. So like chill the hell out and let people who are good at it do it, and just play your part. And I think
let me tell you kind of where this is coming from. So I was actually kind of disappointed that Black Panther wasn't, African American. I don't know if others felt this. Obviously I'm not Black. Just like, I'm going to out myself right now, not Black, in case you missed it. So I don't want to kind of assume how people felt, but like, I was disappointed that like the African American in the film, while having good kind of points, was kind of the problematic anti-hero of the film. And the hero was like African. Like, I want to believe that like African American kids can be heroes, not, African royalty. Does that make sense? Like, that's kind of where I was coming from. I was kind of like, oh, I get it, but like, but it's going to be like, it's one of the, like, I understand that it's also from the source material and stuff like that but that we're going to get to that as well. Okay. I need to speed this up. Okay. So there is lots of commentary on race. So in the British Museum, do you remember that scene? Here, I'll show it to you. Why not?
The axe with the vibranium.
Yes. So this is like 16 minutes in. We got Black Panther here. And this is where kind of Killmonger kind of.
What about this one?
Was from the Edo people of Benin, 16th century.
Now, tell me about this one.
Also from Benin, 7th century. Fula tribe, I believe.
Nah,
I beg your pardon.
it was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium. Don't trip, I'm gonna take it off your hands for you.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
So I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
You got all this security in here watching me ever since I...
All right. So like, there's one kind of commentary on kind of like colonialism and kind of the racial history and how, white people have gone into Africa and kind of just taken everything that's valuable from Africa, and as well as kind of fetishized the people and taken ceremonial objects and kind of put them in museums instead of like actually like letting them continue to be in their cultures. There's more kind of political stuff about like refugees. Like, you let the refugees in, they bring problems with them. It's very kind of like contemporary to kind of Trump's America, right? Like,
Also kind of factual too. If you looked at Europe with the refugee problem, like,
yes, exactly.
Refugees were walking into Europe and killing everybody for a long time.
Well, they were definitely walking into Europe. I don't know about the killing people.
do you not remember Germany like 4 years ago when a bunch of refugees were killing a bunch of German people?
I don't remember that. No.
Oh, that was a big issue.
I remember like everyone fleeing from where is it? It's Middle East, Northern Africa area, begins with the S.
Syria.
Yes. I remember everyone fleeing Syria and trying like getting into Greece and like crossing the boats and like, like dying there. I remember, refugees trying to get here to America and being stopped at the border and kind of put into, camps, you know, it's very much like kind of like there's a lot of social commentary on like, you know, how much should people be able to move around in the world transnationally, and like, should we let them into our very advantaged country, right? Killmonger says that Wakanda has a duty to liberate others. I can't stay here with you, cannot rest while he sits on the throne. We let the fear of discovery stop us from doing what is right. Blah, blah, blah. Or to create a new ember. So this is why Killmonger is ultimately the villain, not because he was wrong, but because he goes about it in the wrong way by kind of trying to do a kind of inverse or reverse colonialism. So like kind of take over and, you know, subjugate all people. And this is what Queen Ramonda says to him, like, you know, you have become them. So this might be worth, let me show you that scene. And then like there is just a lot of kind of race stuff embedded throughout this thing. Let's see, 150. 150. Oh, you know, it's not Ramonda who says that. It's, T'Challa.
I don't need a suit to kill you. Your reign is over. You set up here safe and protected. You want to see us become just like the people you hate so much. Divide and conquer the land of states. I learned from my enemies. Beat them at their own game. You have become that. You will destroy the world, Wakanda included. The world took everything away from me. Everything I ever loved. But I'm gonna make sure we're even. I'm gonna track down anyone who would even think about being loyal to you. And I'm gonna put their ass in the dirt right next to Shuri. Ah!
Okay, so there's that, and then well, shit.
Kid from Oakland running around. It's beautiful. Maybe we can still heal you. Why? So you could just lock me up? Nah. Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships. Because they knew death was better than bondage.
So like there's a lot about race and a lot about the history of the African diaspora. There's a lot of kind of references to colonialism and exploitation of African peoples and slavery, usually kind of in the mouth of Killmonger, right? So we kind of talked about that. How would the film have been different with a white villain? Better or worse?
I think with where the world's at today, it would have just been an issue. But if you would have kept Claw, I loved Claw as like a villain. I thought he was a very cartoonish villain, and I thought that was
Agreed.
Refreshing. I thought it was very refreshing to have a cartoonish villain instead of like this real world thing that we had to attack. And I was just like, man, like, can we just get back to superhero movies, like black holes in the sky of New York? Like, that's cool.
Yeah. So go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, it's like Tom was saying with Claw, like Claw just reminded not like so much of, but like a Joker, like just the personality and everything like that, like just laughing at stupid stuff and everything.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Peter Rain in the club with his arm. Yeah, so.
So he is like a kind of a caricature, right? He's so easy to like hate, and there's no complexity to his character there. So in some ways, like that's refreshing, but then the film didn't leave it there. I don't know about this. Like, I don't know, a white villain, better or worse. Like, in some ways, I'm really glad that they kept it like kind of like, and they kind of showed the complexity of kind of, that people of color could be, good and bad at the same. Like, basically, Eric Killmonger is kind of like an amazing character. He was written really well. I think they did a really good job with him. I think he's on the level of Heath Ledger's Joker, for kind of like a compelling villain. But does his vilification disempower or disqualify the American history of the Black Panther movement? So he's very much kind of the inheritor of kind of the Black Panther movement, equality by any means necessary, whereas T'Challa is very much more like eventually like the Martin Luther King kind of model, right? So you have like a kind of battle between like you said, Tom, earlier, ideologies. Is it problematic that? Is it not problematic, but like, is it, I don't know, disappointing that like, I always wonder like, what is this? Maybe this is because it's the only movie with people of color, like, and it's the same with Wonder Woman. We just need more movies so that we're not like asking for so much from one film, but like, the ideas I always get is like, from the film is like, if you're still in Africa, you're kind of pure. The people of Wakanda who have never been colonized, they're kind of free of the effects of, colonialism and slavery. But if you're a product of colonialism and slavery, as African Americans are, like you're poisoned by them. Like you're kind of, or just like, is Eric Killmonger just his own like, he's the only African American in the film, right? Everyone else is African.
Well, you can call the brother that gets killed by T'Chaka.
Trying to remember who you're talking about.
The brother, his dad, Killmonger's dad.
Yeah. Played by Sterling K. Brown. Yeah.
Well, I don't think well, the movie doesn't talk about the Black Panther movement at all. So like, it's not really demeaning the movement if you don't ever mention it. Or like,
maybe instead of like the movement, instead like does it vilify or disempower, disqualify like African Americans?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what you're saying is
right.
I don't know, because the whole Killmonger, his thing is, hey, like, us people are in the Bronx. No one's like, you guys only like
Oakland
action and whatnot. And so that's, I'm going to get my point across.
Yeah, like they didn't bring up the Bloods or the Crips either. So are we shitting on the Bloods and Crips?
I'm not sure I understand your point.
So the Bloods and Crips started as as groups to protect the Black community, and it grew into what we know now. But they started with the best of intentions and the greatest of heart. And it became bad. Same thing with the Black Panthers, and same thing with most big groups of organizations that are powered by money, because people are greedy, and we all at the end of the day want money. So like, are we shitting on that? Like they didn't mention it because it's not a part.
So even though the Black Panther group is never actually like kind of mentioned in the film, if you're in the like, it's a deliberate decision. If you're in the know about the Black Panthers, there's all these Easter eggs. I do want to talk about gender. There's all these Easter eggs, like Black Panthers began in Oakland. Eric Killmonger's from Oakland, California. When they're kind of flashing back.
I think the Bloods and the Crips also began in Oakland.
Probably, yeah. When they're flashing back to the dad, he's got like guns, as well as like kind of hidden by like tribal stuff, that is very, very Black Panther.
I also think he
and-
has the what was mentioned earlier, the Olympics. He also has the Olympic poster in his house, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Also, even this movie poster is very similar to a very famous picture. And this is Huey Newton, I believe, one of the founders of the Black Panther Party. Okay. So there are like, even if it like never kind of explicitly kind of talks about the Black Panther Party, it's like there, it's haunting it. Okay, so I was asking some big difficult questions. That's good. Okay, so gender. I think this is one of the most empowering superhero films I've ever seen in terms of gender. Lots of very strong female figures. Unlike most superhero mothers, Queen Ramonda is very much alive, politically active. She has a job. She has a role. Right? She saves him. She's one of like the ones who saves him. There's also the idea that you can be like, there's not just one woman who's a love interest, right? There's all kinds of different ways to be a strong, empowered woman. You can be the tech genius of Surrey, who's usually cast as a nerdy white guy. You can be the military general. You can be a spy, or you can be queen, right? Like there's all kinds of different ways to be a kind of empowered woman. And the women are essential to helping T'Challa kind of regain his position. Unfortunately, all the women are still kind of secondary to like a male superhero, but like still. Okay, other. Okay, so in the comics, Okeo, the general of the Dora, this character of the Dora, is it Dora Majai or something? Okeo is lesbian, and they decided to kind of change that. So not so much kind of representation of different kind of sexualities here.
But the change there was a good change. It wasn't like we're taking it out because we hate lesbians. It was that when he goes against her, everyone was against him. Every single, I don't care who you are, every single person was like, he's wrong. Go fix that. Go support your woman because you're about to lose. Like everyone. That was a good change because that really made you fall in love with her even more. I think I loved her. She was
when
awesome.
The rhinoceros licked her face or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the business kind of area, it does draw on a real Pan-African aesthetic in its language, in its costumes, in its sets, and so like the people who made this film really kind of educated themselves about Africa and about lots of different countries within Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and kind of drew on, elements of like Nigeria and Congo and Liberia and all these kinds of, African countries, in its language. So like the language they speak is like a real African language, and the costuming, especially with the ceremony when the different tribes come in and, they're each kind of, got some ceremonial stuff on in the sets, all of this stuff. And it merges technology with spiritualism and tradition in a way that is not always allowed in a lot of kind of white people centered tech movies. Like usually like it's technology and science are what's good. And we got to leave spirituality and superstition and, ceremony behind. And this movie kind of rejects that. Finally, this movie proves that white people will watch cultures and colors other than their own, which for a long time was a big myth and like was a big kind of, people kind of said it was an unspoken truth, just like men won't watch movies with women leads, like white people won't watch movies with people of color in the leads or people of color in the cast.
It's funny we talk about stereotypes so much in this class because I think that's always been a stereotype of people who control money. Like whoever controls the money controls it all. Because I was actually having a conversation with my girlfriend the other day about something, and it was not anything deep, but it was like an episode of TV, and I was like, hey, like she's a swimmer, so she knows all about like swimming, and it was talking about swim meets, and I was like, is this like accurate? Like, is this an accurate depiction? Because I feel like we've watched so much shit that's just been not accurate depictions that it's just bad. Like I love I love learning from Black Panther. I thought it was like if this is real, like that's awesome. Like that's such a cool thing that it was accurate to the land. So I think the more we just start telling the truth and be honest, we're all worried about being politically correct. So we don't like tell a real opinion. So like, who knows what people really like about stuff anymore. But I thought like when stuff's true to nature, I love it. Like when I can learn something and there's like a historical value to it, I love it. I think it's always better.
Yeah. So like these are my big questions for Black Panther. Like I like the more I think about and the more I study Black Panther, the more I like it. But when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like sort of like not let down because it's definitely a fun watch and like it's a good superhero film. But like I was kind of like, I expected there to be like more education about the Black Panther Party. But here are some of the big questions that the movie asks us. And it's like, you don't notice the big questions maybe on first watch, but like, as you think about it more and more, you start to realize how smart this movie is. Can Black people ever be untouched by the reach of white supremacy? That's a big question it's asking. And like, you know, is that touch poison?
Can you explain that question to me more?
Sure, yeah. So like the idea of, you know, white supremacy, you guys know the idea of white supremacy, like the idea of like white people to kind of deserve the best and like, you know, it is racist. So the idea is like in Wakanda, they kind of look at white supremacy and they kind of try to avoid it by kind of becoming isolationist and kind of abandoning everyone outside of Wakanda, right? And so in that way, they're kind of touched and poisoned by white supremacy, by the fact that like white people have gone and kind of colonized, taken over and exploited most of the world. You got Eric Killmonger as well. He's totally been kind of poisoned and touched by white supremacy, specifically by the kind of racism he experiences in America in the projects, right? You know, the kind of historical economic kind of disempowerment of people of color. Think about redlining. So people of color, specifically African Americans, were prevented from buying houses when it comes to redlining and still are kind of prevented. They pay higher interest rates on loans. People are less willing to invest in them when they're kind of going into venture capitalism and stuff like that. So Killmonger is kind of poisoned by kind of like the kind of white supremacy he's been victimized by in America. Wakanda is poisoned by it. Like, can Black people ever be untouched by the reach of white supremacy, or is it kind of always everywhere, even in Wakanda, which has never been colonized?
So the idea that Wakanda became an isolationist because of white people, I would say that you could easily make an argument the other way, where they were like, we're not going to let white people in here, and you can make a claim that it's racist that way. But every color on the planet has been enslaved by another group or another.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, but
for all of time.
So like white people never were enslaved because of their race. It was always kind of more incidental, right?
Irish people were enslaved in America because they were Irish.
They weren't enslaved, no.
Okay.
They were oppressed.
There is a bunch of African countries that enslaved other countries too.
Yes.
Egypt,
Yes.
So
not based on race, though. America is the only one to have kind of enslaved based on race.
And Spain, there's like Spain was a lot worse than America.
Thank you.
What? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
No, we were talking about this
is kind of secondary to kind of what I like to the film. You know, I'm trying not to pull the PhD card, you know. Okay.
Have you been, I have a question. Have you been to some of those countries we are already talking about today?
African countries?
You can go African, you can go Northern African, you can go Middle Eastern. We talked
about countries. No, I don't travel very much because
so you could pull the PhD card, but I can tell you from world experience, because I've been there, that it's
okay.
Like there's a lot of information that people aren't really.
There's also lots of
data sets are just completely ignored. Like Huge data sets are completely ignored.
I don't think you're wrong. But let's kind of focus on Black Panther, okay? Rather than getting into, you know, a discussion of like slavery and which slavery was worse. And the people of color who made Black Panther are definitely kind of thinking about this question. Good, you guys with me on that one? Did Wakanda's leaders have an obligation to aid people of African ancestry, even at some cost to themselves? That's a question that the film is asking. I'm not looking for an answer. That's, I think, a big question that the film is asking us to think about. Another question I think it's asking us to think about is like, can technology simultaneously be used as tools of destruction and also liberation? So like kind of the Iron Man question, similar, right? And what does it mean to be truly free? Right? Can one justify using violence if it's in the service of another's freedom? This is like some, you know, a big question that especially people of color have inherited in America. All right. So the film walks the line between social commentary and escapism. It hides and elides the fact that the Black Panther started in America as a social activism group, and it hides the fact that the CIA, well, it doesn't hide it, but like it elides it, like doesn't kind of point out the fact that the CIA actively hunted members of the Black Panther Party in America. Okay, this is why I actually find Everett Ross to be so unbelievable as a character, not necessarily because, you know, he's a goofy white guy and what is he doing in this movie, but because he's supposed to be a CIA agent and like totally fine with Wakanda and totally into helping Wakanda. I don't know.
Like, the fact that we even know he's a CIA agent tells me he's not a CIA agent.
Well, you know, it's just like, let's talk about like, it just doesn't feel real.
Yeah, he's completely worthless to this movie.
Wait, are you saying that, so what you're saying is that we should believe that the CIA hasn't changed from the Black Panther movement and is still racist and doesn't want anything to do with, you know, Black rights and whatnot? Like, what are you saying with that?
I think it's kind of problematic to kind of ignore that history. I'm not saying that they haven't changed, but I think like it's kind of problematic to ignore that history. And I think it's especially like unbelievable that the people of Wakanda would have brought a CIA, like a self-avowed CIA agent to Wakanda if they were trying to keep it hidden just because he took a bullet for Nakia. Does that make sense?
I mean, so if you're in that regard, if they don't bring him back, the Queen's comment of "you're becoming them" would actually be happening. Like, oh, you're just going to leave that poor white man to die because he's a poor white man.
Could be, maybe. I just kind of found it pretty unbelievable. Given
he's the worst. I hate him.
Not a character. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So it might be worth noting that Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, two white guys, to fill a racial gap in the Marvel universe. Not people of color did not create Black Panther, just like women did not create Wonder Woman. The comic book hero and the Black Panther Party emerged the same year, with the comic book hero a couple months earlier. But the Black Panther Party is based on another social activist group in Georgia who had the Black Panther as their symbol. So it's really like they definitely didn't emerge like completely separately, even though like it seems like that on first glance. Like Stan Lee and Black Kirby kind of were like looking around and like seeing that the Black Panther was kind of often kind of used. And so they kind of made it as their kind of superhero, and then the Black Panther Party emerged. Does that make sense? It's a kind of a cultural kind of synchronicity. All right, get into groups with, you know, the kind of few minutes we have left. Do some research on the Black Panther Party in America, like the origins and general info about the Black Panther Party. The death of Fred Hampton is like really kind of big. And the, you know, the CIA's kind of reaction to the civil rights movement. I'm going to get you into three groups to kind of do those three things. So someone's going to look at like the origins and general info about the Black Panther Party. Another group will look at the kind of death of Fred Hampton. And then the final group will kind of be like the CIA and FBI's kind of response to the civil rights movement. Okay, good. I'm gonna put you in breakout rooms, and then like I was gonna have you guys present. This is you guys remember this halftime show with Beyonce?
Not.
Was that? Yeah.
How can I not remember it?
Yeah. She got a lot of flack because like again, like there's all these references to the Black Panthers in the costuming and stuff. And it's kind of like, well, like, it's hard to be not to be political when you're Black in America. Okay. Breakout rooms. Black Panther. I'm gonna put you into 3. Discussion 19. Yeah. Instead of the Black Panther Party and the CIA, try to look at like the CIA and FBI response to civil rights leaders.
Oh, isn't it like, don't we know that I think it was the FBI that killed MLK? Like
he was definitely on their top 10
same with
most
JFK.
wanted.
I think the CIA killed JFK. With little help from Castro, but
all right. So room 1 will be how about origins and history. Room 2 will be the death of Fred Hampton, and room 3 will be kind of the FBI and CIA response to civil rights. And kind of post what you find here in this discussion. And that will be your like presenting it to class. Charles, Corey. Ben.
Oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong? Oh my. Oh. Natasha, I'm in the sofa, baby. Oh. What is it, Ozzy? Okay. Justine? Can you stay off me for a minute, please? I need to figure out what's going on with Ozzy. Thanks, guys. What's going on, Ozzy? Okay?
All right.
line that it said,
Hey.
hello.
Hello. What are you guys finding out?
So I'm on the I was actually just talking about it. I'm on the Washington Post, and we're like somebody else is reading the same one. Like it's one of those stories on the Washington Post where you're like, yeah, okay. Like officers assigned approached a dwelling with a warrant authorizing a search for illegal weapons, and then gunfire. Police claimed they faced a barrage from inside the apartment. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so investigations have found that one shot was fired.
Yeah, I saw it, and then there was like 40 holes, and then they proved that all of the holes were. I saw it years ago. I saw something on like Discovery Channel, something where they went through this, and
You know why they kind of took out Fred Hampton?
he was the Ministry of Defense or minister, like whatever they called him in the Black Panther Party in Illinois, but he was also running for Congress or something.
Yeah, and he was also like super charismatic, and he was unifying not only Black Americans but also working class, blue collar white Americans and also Native American Indians.
Same with MLK. Like he was
But
doing
also
all these great things.
Fred Hampton was also like super young, right?
He was 21, 22
when he died, and he was laying in bed next to his pregnant wife when he died, and they found like barbiturates in his system, and like
I'm sure they did. Can't fake a blood test.
So he was like, it's basically assassinated, right? Because he was getting too powerful. And so like
Political
that's kind of,
figure.
what was that?
Political figure. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of the legacy of like, so like certain kind of groups kind of talk about how like they white supremacists in America kind of looked at all of the kind of the like leadership in the Black community in the 60s and 70s, and they stripped the community of the leadership, right? Left them scrambling. So no one wanted to step up and be a leader because you're basically kind of signing your own death warrant, right? Sad. Okay. Well, it sounds like you guys got lots of good stuff. Fred Hampton's death was also kind of like the kind of like death knell of the Black Panther Party, right? He was the last one to kind of.
For the post, do you want just one of us to post it, or do you want all of us to post?
One person. I would. If you want all the points, everyone should post. If you want some points, just let one person post. Cool?
Okay.
Cool. All right. I'm going to check on another room. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Okay. Did you see any kind of Easter eggs from Black Panther, kind of once you get more information about the Black Panther Party?
I'd have to watch the movie again and pay attention to those Easter eggs.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. So like, kind of check out, references to the Black Panther Party that kind of the movie is making. All right, I'm going to check in on the one last group and then I'm going to close the rooms.
Professor,
Yes.
are we like discussing this right now, or like are we about to end?
We're about to end. I was gonna have you do one last thing where you posted. Hold on, give me 20 seconds so
Gotcha.
everyone can come back and I can tell you all at once. The idea is like, I want everyone to kind of post the answer, what they think to one last question. And then we'll call it good. And
We're supposed to just do like the third one, right? If I was in group 3. Okay.
Yeah. So that one was like more like a CIA and FBI response to kind of civil rights movement. Even
I had found a good article and everything. I just put that link there if that's fine.
Good. Yeah. I mean, ideally you would also like put the big takeaways, but like we ran out of time. All right. So it looks like you're all here. So the one thing I want you to do before you kind of leave for the weekend is think about this last question. Do you think that Black Panther is a blow against racism in the US and Hollywood? In what ways, yes, and maybe in what ways not so much. Okay. All right. So take a couple minutes, answer that question, and then you will be free for the weekend.
Discussion post.
Yeah, put it on discussion post 19. The one other thing I wanted to mention is wait to do the reading for Monday until like, do you guys do it before Sunday? Wait to do it until Sunday, okay? If you usually do it other days, because I'm not really sure if I'm gonna keep this one or instead if I'm gonna do this one. All right, I have to read this one. This one is not always great, but like I have to read it. Okay. Good.
Yes, have a great weekend, Professor, and I hope you have
Okay.
a good day. And you have
Yeah. Looking forward to talking to you about it on Monday, and then I'm looking forward to a freaking break.
Yeah, break would be really nice.
You know, spring break would have been excellent, but whatever. All right, guys. Take care.
Have a good one, Professor.
You
Thanks,
too.
Professor.
Bye.